Hey, welcome to another episode of the Trucking Risk and Insurance Podcast with your hosts, Chris Harris and John Farquhar. And our special guest today, Michael Zelek of Wellington Motor Freight, Wellington Group of Companies. And Michael is the Director of Human Resources. Now, interesting enough, we don't have it on the screen, but Michael's full name is Michael Zelek. And I understand the Z does not stand for zebra. It's Zach.
It does not.
Am I correct?
You're correct. I wish it did. That'd be cool.
That would be. Wouldn't it be cool to be a guy named Michael Zebra Zelek? Like, what more could you ask for?
It's got to be xylophone.
Xylophone. Isn't that an X?
I think that's an X.
There you go. What do I know? Glockenspiel?
Could have been Zipper. Michael Zipper Zelek, but no, it's Michael Zachary Zelek. So welcome, Michael. Thanks for coming on the Trucking Risk and Insurance Podcast.
No, thanks for having me. It's fun to be here and looking forward to chatting transportation with you gentlemen.
Perfect. Hey, Good deal.
Michael, I have a request. Can you move your head out of the way so I can see the sweater behind you? I want to see what time it is. Time it is. Thank you. Yay! The great Johnny Bauer. Perfect.
Oh,
that is
Johnny Bauer, and I've got what else we got here?
Oh, Nash.
The once great Rick Now.
Oh, there you go.
All right.
I got Mitch Marner on the other side of my office. I've got the three jerseys.
Nice.
Cool.
Well, John and I have a mutual friend, and I'm sure you know Kim Richardson, and he's a damn Boston fan. So I'm happy to have you on the show.
Yeah, I mean the Boston, the Bruins have had the last laugh the last little while, but yeah, it kills me inside a little bit whenever I hear someone likes the Bruins.
Yeah. I'm happy to see a Johnny Bauer shirt. So.
Yeah. Well, after Chris was on the show last time, we had to cleanse the studio of any Boston Bruins, smell and odor and anything like that. So, yeah, it took a while. So, anything else like Leafs and whatnot, all good.
Yeah, I'm a Leafs fan through and through.
Perfect.
Thank you for that. Just one story about the Leafs, or one story about Johnny Bauer. When I was a much younger lad, I actually caddied for Johnny Bauer when he played our golf course.
That's
I got
cool.
the privilege of carrying his clubs, and he was in a pro-am golf tournament. He was good enough to give his time and come up and play golf and sign a lot of autographs and things like that. So always had a great deal of respect for Mr. Bauer.
Cool.
Yeah, he had a lot of respect for the fans. It seems like he was always getting his name out in the community, and he'll talk to anyone, he'll sign anything. He is a good man and a champion.
Yes. So, Johnny, where are we going?
Perfect. Well, let's let Michael introduce himself and give us a little bit of history on his background before we start quizzing him and driving him crazy with questions here. So, Michael, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Cool. Well, I've been working in transportation for 10 years now. I started at a non-asset-based 3PL. From there, I went to a trucking company with about 500 trucks. I was there for 5 years. Did everything from brokerage to dispatch to recruiting. Went to another company with about 1,000 trucks. I was there for about a year, running their driver recruiting and retention. And then that's what brought me over leads me to Wellington, where I've been. This is my 4th year with the company. Their director of human resources. I look after all the hiring, mainly for truck drivers, but as well as for office staff. And it's been an awesome journey so far at Wellington, where we've got amazing people in the office, amazing people on the roads, just rock stars in every department. It's a great place to work.
Awesome.
We'll throw you the welcoming confetti. How long has Wellington been in business, Mike?
So we've been in business for 7 years. The first 3.5 of them, we were a non-asset-based third-party brokerage. And then in May of 2018, our current president, Derek Koza, came over, and we started getting assets, and we've grown from there. So we've been around 7 years, but most of our growth has been in the last 3.5.
Cool. How big's the fleet size right now?
We've got around 35 to 40 company units. And then we've got Sprinter vans, we've got straight trucks. We've got a company in Roberts, Wisconsin. I think they've got around 40 trucks. And then we've got 5 or 6 owner operators working for us as well.
Wow. So quite a different, yeah. So quite a different fleet size compared to what your history is when you were working for a fleet of about 500 and then a fleet of about 1,000. Now you're down under 100 power units. So, quite a unique dynamic now from what you were doing before.
Yeah. I mean, there's pros and cons to big companies and small companies. And I mean, what I really like about a smaller company is I know all the drivers very well. Most of them have been with us for several years now. So I've started to develop, not just your standard relationship with them, but a pretty strong friendship with a lot of them anyways. Whereas at bigger companies, when I was in dispatch, maybe I had a fleet of 40 drivers that I looked over that I'd have special relationships with, but there'd still be another 400 drivers that I probably couldn't pick out of a crowd.
Right.
So yeah, I kind of like the word family's overused a lot when people talk about their companies, but it is more of a family feel. And I mean, just yesterday I was out with, a dozen of our drivers. We went out to Boston Pizza just to watch football and have some garbage. Well, not, I should say garbage food that's bad for you.
Yeah. Pub food.
But it was cool. You could shoot the breeze, you could watch the game, you could talk about some work stuff, but it was never, no conversations were forced. People didn't have to come. Right. It's granted, we obviously picked up the bill for them, but it's like, hey guys, let's just hang out. We can finally get together again. Might as well do it.
A great appreciation opportunity.
That's right.
Yeah. And you say about 40 drivers showed up?
No, we had a dozen drivers show up. Like this was we did it in London, Ontario. Our drivers are fairly spread out. So the Windsor guys didn't make it out. The GTA guys couldn't make it out. The Quebec fleet couldn't make it out. So we probably had 12 of about 20 to 25 drivers come out. So decent attendance for a Sunday.
Yeah, no, not bad.
Yeah, because everybody's got family commitments and everything else on their days off. Yeah. So that's excellent.
Yeah, when you want to spend time with your coworkers on your time off, that's proof of a good relationship. When they're not being forced or paid to see my ugly mug.
So true. So I had the opportunity to
guys, give me a break.
I was going to say I had the opportunity to hear Michael speak here just last week at the one of the Central Chapter Fleet Safety Council meeting, and a lot of great things that Michael's doing over at Wellington. And I didn't want to touch on everything, Michael. I want to touch on a few things in particular. One being your recruitment process, and two, your compensation package, which is quite unique in the industry, as we're going to find out here. But Chris and I both believe heavily in that the industry needs to change to a pay package that is similar to what you guys are doing at Wellington. But give us a little rundown on that, and tell us what it is you're doing differently from a recruiting practice to start, and then we'll kind of jump into the pay package.
Yeah, when it comes to recruiting, I've got a budget that I'm allowed to spend on different recruiting ads or different ways to attract drivers, and I haven't touched it in over a year.
Wow.
Partly because we've got a good reputation in the industry, so we've got a few drivers kind of lining up, waiting for positions to open up, and partly just smarter ads. Like I say it's like fishing with a spear instead of fishing with a net. I'll put up an ad that's very specific. It's looking for a specific type of driver that maybe they want to be home every night or they want to be out for a long time. Whatever it is, every driver's got their preferences. So, instead of getting 100 applications just for, a truck driver, I post the ad as specific as possible, and maybe I only get 8 or 10 applications, but they're all really good fits. And then I can kind of get picky and actually have, a selection process where in the past it's kind of been, your driver's abstract's pretty good. Your work history's okay. Then you pass the road test, here are the keys. We can make sure someone's a right fit for our culture. We can make sure that they haven't bounced around from companies too much, and, really pick the best, most professional driver out of the bunch.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Michael, you said the best fit for the culture of your company. How do you determine, how do you figure that out? Because that's a huge thing. If you can do it well, then your turnover is low.
Yeah, it's a little tougher than most aspects of hiring, because, in a job interview, it's like if you have a kid and they want to get a puppy, they're going to promise to walk it every day. They're going to, wash it, feed it, all that sort of stuff. In job interviews, you get a lot of people that just agree with everything. So you kind of have to dig a little deeper. It's like, well, you might have to work weekends. Is that going to be a problem? You go to the cottage every weekend. Does junior have a ballet recital or a sports game that you need to go to? Asking the questions to make sure that they're fit from that stance. And then in terms of culture, I bring most people to our office if they're getting hired from anywhere around here, and they can kind of see what we're like, where it's like similar to the Boston Pizza this weekend. It's people that want to be here. They see everyone's getting along. No one's extremely frazzled at their desk. I mean, it's transportation, so there's going to be some stress in the air sometimes, but the drivers see what we're like. They hear the feedback from our other drivers. If they've had the road test already, it's by, one of our local guys. They're all kind of preaching the same thing, that it's a good place to work. But, if you're not going to be putting in the effort, it's not going to work for either end.
Mm-hmm. No, excellent. I was going to say, I like the language you were using there when we're asking the driver, will this schedule fit you, rather than saying, hey, here's how it's going to be. If you don't like it, there's the door, but here it's like, hey, how can we accommodate you? How can we work with you? Because if this isn't the right fit, maybe we got something else, because you seem to be the right driver.
Yeah, I use the square peg in a square hole mentality, where, you're not going to get a driver with 10 years experience to all of a sudden say, like, hey, I'm sick of local. I want to go to New Jersey all the time. You got to find that driver that wants to do that. And I've had it many times. In fact, there's a gentleman I just offered a position to that I've been in contacts with for, I don't know, probably 2.5 years. And it hasn't been a match yet. And then finally the position opened up that he probably originally applied for 2.5 years ago. And it was a no-brainer. Like, I don't have to post an ad. I don't have to, I can basically send one text message, make one phone call and say, hey, Larry, this position's available. And, I'm going to give my 2 weeks and then start with you guys, pretty much. Like, it's a really cool process when it's that seamless, and you don't have to stress about finding a driver and having an empty truck and failing your customer. And then, the worst thing you can do is make the wrong hire because you're rushed into it and you've got some inexperienced driver, or again, someone that wants long haul doing local and they're unhappy, and, they're going to be gone in a month and a half anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. So it almost sounds like you don't have a huge focus on recruiting, because it doesn't sound like it's an everyday task.
No, it's not. I mean, we put a lot of effort into our driver retention, staying kind of with a finger on the pulse for how our drivers are doing. And each year, like, let's say I hire 5 or 6 drivers, it's because of expansion. It's not because of we're losing anyone. We once went 18 months without a single company driver leaving our company. And, that streak unfortunately came to an end last March, I guess, about 6-7 months ago. But the numbers have stayed pretty consistent. Like, we've got a 98% driver retention rate. Our guys don't leave.
That's awesome. And that's the thing. You focus. I think if you work more on retaining those guys, you'll work less on recruiting because I don't need to keep hiring drivers. So what
Yeah.
Oh, are you getting that?
Oh, did I go stiff?
Yeah, you kind of stepped out of the room there, John.
I'm going to come back. Hang on. Here I come. So, see, that's what happens with the internet deep in the South.
Yes, you're deep in the south of southern Ontario, out in the boonies.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, am I back?
Yes.
Yeah.
What was your question?
Okay. So what are some of the other things that you do as part of your retention program? One of them you've already mentioned, Don, is inviting the guys out to Boston Pizza for some pub grub. Watch the game, watch some fun, and have a couple of drinks with your comrades. That's huge. But what are some other things that you guys are doing to work on? Because, again, you're not having to do a lot on the recruiting side. So what are you doing to retain these guys?
Yeah, one thing that we did that was a big success. It was just our first year doing it this time. We had a driver appreciation month where in August, every day we had a different sort of promotion or giveaway or contest where, drivers could win $200, $300, $400, $500 for participating. Wow. Sometimes it's just, hey, everyone, here's a $10 Subway gift card. We're going to put in a swag bag for you. I mentioned in my other presentation where a lot of companies will have a driver appreciation barbecue, but it'll be at noon on a Wednesday when all the drivers are out on the road. So it's just the office staff there and maybe the odd local guy.
We're having a burger in their memory.
We want to include everyone. So it's easier these days. You can email gift cards or get more company shirts made up, and sometimes it'd just be cold hard cash. We'd have a cool contest, some sort of trivia, or we had my favorite one was anyone who sent in a picture of them picking up garbage, whether it's their backyard, their neighborhood, at a truck stop, they got entered into a draw for $500. So It's cool. You're helping out the community, helping out the world, making the industry look good, and good chance to win some money.
Sure. So, how do you fund the retention program? You'd mentioned you have a budget for the recruiting side, which you haven't had to touch. Do you have a budget for the retention side as well?
Truthfully, there's no hard budget on it. Our company, right from the top, we kind of all buy into the value of drivers and how much they mean to a company. So it's never really been an issue where it's like, hey, we want to, send Larry to the Blue Jay game. He's been with us for 2 years. He's been a rock star. It's like, okay, no problem. And even smaller things where if someone wants an extra shirt because they just, they love wearing the Wellington gear.
Sure.
It's hard to say no to that when people are proud to fly the Wellington colors. You almost want to nurture them more and get more people doing that. It's just you look more professional when you're like that, and if it keeps the drivers happy, it's even better.
Yeah.
And driver happiness is, I think, it's a major key to retention. So,
yeah.
Well, I was going to say it's not hard to connect the dots here when you talk about recruitment versus your retention programs and how you're able to fund all this. Well, I find a lot of people spend more time and effort recruiting and less time retaining. And if we took half the money we did in recruiting, invested into our retention programs, we'd probably have more time in the day.
Oh, for sure. I feel like in the last few years, people have realized, how much an empty truck is costing you and how much effort goes into recruiting and how much you're probably spending on ads and training and, the other costs that you don't always associate with it, but your insurance premiums are probably going to go higher if you're lowering your standard to hire drivers. Like it's such a wide web of where you can go with that. So the smart companies have started doing something about it. The other companies, they might talk about it, but not necessarily do a whole lot about it. and it's going to be crystal clear who comes out ahead when, there's a lineup of drivers at one place and, the other place is, we're paying an extra cent per mile now and think that'll solve the problem. Money's important, don't get me wrong, but it's not everything.
No. Well, that leads me into the compensation package that you guys provide. It's on a unique level versus what the industry is, and it's definitely on a level that needs to shift in that direction and get away from what the industry norm is. So tell us about your pay package.
Yeah, so we pay all of our company drivers a guaranteed salary. So, when we started this program, it raised a few eyebrows from, the drivers I'd talked to, as well as just different people in the industry. Like, how's that going to be sustainable? What if there's not enough work? What if there's no backhauls? And, pretty quickly the drivers bought in. When we hired our first 8 drivers, 7 of them being full-time, they all kind of saw the benefit to the salary. And, you can work out your math however you want to figure out, what you earn per hour if this is what you work. But, the fact that it's guaranteed when you're going for a mortgage or credit or a loan of some sort, you can show them, hey, I paid for the last 52 weeks, identical. There's no good weeks, there's no bad weeks. Our guys are going to be happy coming up because with Christmas coming, a lot of our customers are closed on the 23rd or the 24th. So their trucks aren't going to be spinning a mile, but they still get paid their regular salary.
Sure.
So that raises the eyebrows from the industry people, like, well, how can you make money if that's the case? And what we do is the onus is off of the truck driver. We expect our drivers to come to work between Monday and Friday and to be ready to work. We cater to their schedules as much as we can, but we've got customers to service. We've got trucks that have to be making money for us. So the onus switches from the driver to the planner, to the customer service team, to the executive team to make sure that we're running these trucks efficiently. And so far it's been going amazing for us where, the drivers have kind of all bought in where, let's say they're averaging 50 hours a week. They no longer grumble if they have a 12-hour day because they know there's going to be an 8-hour day coming up, or there's going to be a day off on New Year's Eve or what it may be. Because initially, don't get me wrong, I had the guy saying, hey, Mike, if I'm doing 14 hours per day, it works out to this per hour. And it's like, right, but I know, you finished at 1 p.m. yesterday and you weren't grumbling about that. So now we're kind of that's more of the culture. And I don't know, I even had some of the guys saying, like, I'll do one more little shuttle run here because if I don't do it, I know Larry's going to have to do it. And, that'll give him a long day where mine was going to be short. And there's a lot of teamwork involved and, guys just staging trailers for each other. If it's not the biggest reason for our strong retention numbers, it's definitely up there. The salary is huge. And the driver no longer gets punished if their truck's down or if there's no backhaul or, whatever it may be, where mileage-based pay, I'm on the same page as you guys, where it doesn't make sense, certainly on its own. I mean, maybe you have some sort of guaranteed minimum and plus mileage. I wouldn't be against that, but strictly mileage, it's a crapshoot.
Yeah. Well, it definitely puts an onus onto the operations team to make sure that, hey, these trucks are rolling, that these guys are utilizing the time that they got. But interesting enough, and I think we'll all agree on this, it's silly in my mind, and it has been for a long time, why we pay on a mileage basis when we make our truck payments on a fixed monthly basis. Our insurance costs are usually on a fixed monthly basis. Our maintenance staff, if we've employed them, well, they're on salary and they're on standby. So if there's no trucks turning, well, hopefully they're working on them, but if they're all fixed, well, then we're sitting up paying them to sit around. So, trailer payments are the same way. So there's a lot of fixed costs that makes sense to bring the driver into that same approach. Create a fixed cost. And I can't agree with you more about having that ability to keep that driver happy and give them peace of mind, knowing that when I want to buy a house or I want to go buy a car, I can go to the bank and say, Yeah, here's what I make every week, guaranteed.
Well, the
It's
other,
great, and we have the opportunity for the guys to earn overtime if they ever want to do work on weekends. But
Mhm.
most of the guys, they're just happy doing their Monday to Thursday, their Monday to Friday, and
Sure.
calling it a week. And then if people do want to earn extra money, I always tell them, when you're out there earning extra money, you're not spending money, so it's kind of like a double bonus. And some guys love it. We have a lot of part-time drivers as well, whether they're semi-retired or they have a full-time job elsewhere. And those guys have been very valuable to the fleet as well, where they can hop in on the weekends, or if someone's on vacation or a sick day, appointment, whatever it may be. The flexibility of these guys is awesome. And one other thing I wanted to touch on there, John, was you're talking about all these fixed costs. From an operations perspective, if all the drivers are on salary, there's another fixed cost that you know about. So when you're setting your rates for the customer, you know exactly kind of what you're getting into. Most companies are, maybe not most, but at least at Wellington, like our trucks are all under a maintenance plan. So all of our maintenance is a fixed cost as well. We know pretty darn well what's going out the door, so we can better dictate on what's coming in the door. It's, I can't believe there's more companies that aren't adopting this method, because it's fair, and it can be a very sustainable method, as Wellington has proven.
Sure.
Well, one of the things,
there's no doubt you got. Oh, sorry, Chris. I was just going to say, there's no doubt you got happy drivers. I'll bet you they got happy spouses as well.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how many times someone's spouse or family member will, either talk to me at the Christmas party, or send me an email just saying, hey, I'm so happy Terry's home more often, and I love the fixed schedule, and it's just a big relief. I know there's one gentleman that drives for us, where I feel like we kind of kept his marriage together when he got this consistent, regular run, regular pay. It's just so much easier to plan your life when you know what you're doing and when you're doing it and how much you're getting for it.
Now, Mike, I had a question. You talked early on when you were started on the salary part about some drivers knowing that they had a short day, that they would do a short run or stage a trailer so that somebody else doesn't have to do a longer day. How did you foster that? You used the term teamwork. How did you foster that teamwork?
I mean, I'd say it started with the first 8 guys that we hired. They were, God bless these guys, because they hopped on with a company that they really knew nothing about. And it was just, my word telling them, like, hey guys, like, you're going to be getting paid a salary. It's a good company. I promise you that. Like, I know the people that work here, and they kind of took a shot with us. And as we've grown, and they've kind of, certainly moved up the seniority ranks within the fleet. The methods that they had from day one kind of got passed down. And one gentleman in particular, great Irish guy named Paddy, we call him the quarterback of our fleet. If you cut him open, he bleeds Wellington colors. There's got to be a Wellington tattoo on him somewhere. He's flying our flag everywhere. And, it's like the guys don't want to disappoint him. He's been a rock for our company, and, you see how hard he's working, and, that translates to the next person. And if we do find someone that doesn't really fit into that and is out for themselves, and, we had one guy that would put pylons in front of the door that he was going into so that no one would ever be into it. We don't let those people last. Our retention numbers are strong for people that have voluntarily left the company, but I've had to dismiss a few people because they don't buy in. And with the salary structure, we don't want the driver that's stopping at every truck stop for a coffee and a cigarette. We want the person that's going to work hard and work smart, work fast, and just buy into the Wellington way. And we've been very fortunate that most of the I'd say all of our drivers now are like that, and most of the hires have been like that.
Awesome.
Beautiful. Congratulations. Because, seriously, there's so many companies out there. Everybody says there's a driver shortage and we can't hire drivers. And yet it doesn't appear like Wellington and you have a problem because you frame things differently in a way that a driver understands it and wants to come and work for you.
Yeah, no, 100%. And even when we did get a new piece of business that we weren't exactly sure what it entailed, I've gone out on probably 5 or 6 trips with our drivers now just so I could get a better understanding for it. Number one, help them through their first day or two, and then recruiting for other positions when we've added more trucks to that lane. Now I can say, this is what the run entails. Don't get me wrong, I've never driven commercially in my life. I struggled to back up my Kia Rio. But just going in the truck, this position had a physical component to it where you're moving freight to the back of the trailer. Going out there and doing the dirty work with them, learning how to strap a flatbed load. I had no idea what that entailed. And I showed John a picture when I'm just miserable out in the rain, wearing an old safety vest and freezing because, I want to say it was like November or something like that. But the driver's out there doing it in the rain. They've got to do it rain or shine. So I'm not going to cancel on a learning opportunity. If anything, it gave me more appreciation because I realized, it's not 10, 15 minutes to strap a flatbed. It's 45 minutes to an hour, and that's in great conditions if the freight doesn't need to be moved around. That's been very valuable, and I'd say both the recruiting and the retention, where I've been out there. I know the places that they're going to. I know, some of them are a real pain in the neck to back into. Some of the freight might be a little difficult to offload, but the fact that I've done it, I can at least prep them for it, where they're in for no surprises. And drivers that I talk to after, they have an orientation at, ABC Transport, they hate surprises because they're rarely good. And it's, did I say this much per mile? I meant only this much. And, did I say Texas? I meant Massachusetts. Like there's so many that pop up. If you can limit them, if people know what they're getting in for, they can either make an informed decision not to come to your company or to come to your company. And results have been good.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say your ability to get your hands dirty and work with the drivers, even when you haven't done that task before, there's no doubt about it. It brings credibility to your position and appreciation to you and your staff from your team. So, and one last point I just want to throw in there. I know of a couple other companies that are paying on a salary or an hourly based compensation package, and very similar to what you have, Michael, their retention's high, very high.
Yeah.
So that proves it works. And those companies are also very prosperous, and they don't have a shortage of drivers knocking on the door.
Yeah, it seems like such common sense. Like more companies would adopt this. And like I use the example of a layover where some companies, they might only pay you $50 to lay over, and that's not much money out of the company's pocket. Sure, the truck's not making as much money as it could that day, but it's $50 and a little bit of lost money where the driver's missing out on whatever they could be earning, $250, $300. So they're the one that's taking it on. And I'd assume that's why most companies don't care too much to lay over a driver, because it's not hurting their pocketbook that much. It's hurting the driver. So I wish it was almost industry standard where like, okay, if you're going to lay over, $200 or $250. And then that would catch the attention of the operations manager if they're seeing, there's frequent layovers, and it's like, okay, well, what can we do to get this truck moving? Whether we, go empty an extra 100 miles, whether we take a little less than we want, but we can't be paying out this much money each time, because right now the drivers are basically paying that out.
Right.
Yeah, that's driver abuse again. And, drivers won't stay forever at a company like that. The turnover rate's going to be higher. So congrats to you. And the other thing I wanted to say, Michael, was congrats to the upper management who allow you, like I assume that you said, hey, I wanted to go out on this new piece of business because I wanted to learn about it. Well, somebody had to say, or it was just part of the culture that you knew that you had unrivaled permission to go and do that.
Mhm.
So congrats to your team of managers that you know that you can get out there, or they say, yeah, get out there and go do that. Because not every company
Yeah.
allows it.
Mhm.
No, we've got a really good team here that's really focused on the drivers. And, I'm a little more on the one end where I'm very driver centric, and sometimes I will butt heads with operations about a few things, but on the whole, especially our executive team, they know that without our drivers, our trucks aren't going anywhere. Our customers'
Yeah.
freight's not going to be delivered. And then, it's, it's not a good situation if you don't have any drivers.
Oh, no doubt.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Michael. Last words. We're going to have your we'll have your contact info in the show notes below in case a driver wants to reach out and find out more about Wellington. But any parting words for us?
Parting words is just, treat drivers like they're any other friend of yours or any other staff member. They're the lifeblood of your company. It's, I don't know, to me, it's just second nature. Like, treat them with respect and don't swear at them. Don't raise your voice. Think about it from their perspective. And even if you haven't been in a truck with them before, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out if they've been driving for 12 hours in a day. The last thing they want to do is go drop a trailer just because you're asking for a favor. Like, it's, they work hard. They're driving 80,000 pounds worth of equipment, risking tickets, risking fines, risking collisions. They're an educated bunch. They're great with geography, great with mechanics, often speak many different languages. Like, give drivers the respect they deserve. Don't fake it. That's so easy to spot someone that fakes it. But if you have a genuine respect and appreciation for truck drivers, that's going to attract them. That's going to keep them. And that's going to change the mentality at your company, where everyone's going to start having that sort of respect and admiration for them.
Yeah. The golden rule: do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
That's right.
Thanks so much, Michael. John, you want to wrap this up?
Yeah. Well, you know what? Thanks, Michael. This was great information. I know our listeners are going to get a lot of this and a lot out of this. And I'm hoping that with any luck, they'll really listen to what you said and take it back and kind of ingrain it into their culture, their organization, and start looking at, hey, how could we do different? How can we do this? So again, Michael, thank you very much.
For sure.
No problem. I appreciate it. And hey, let's hope your lineup of potential candidates gets longer. And you know what? So. Unfortunately, we can't hire them because we've got lots of good guys staying put. So nothing wrong with that. Good thing to have.
Great. Thanks, guys.
Take care. Enjoy.
Hey, Michael Z. Thank you of Wellington Motor Freight for coming on the show. Appreciate it so much. If you made it all the way to this portion of the show, please leave us a like and a comment down below. It helps the show very much. So that's it for this week from my co-host Johnny Farquhar of Summit Risk Solutions and myself, Chris Harris, Safety Dog. That's it. See you next week.